Gang, Dieter Kurtenbach with Logan Murdock here at Oracle Arena. Logan's getting those shoulders loose ahead of Game 2. Warriors up 1-0 in this series, but the word that they were using after Game 1 was lucky.
Yes.
And it's hard to argue with them. They did get lucky. That was not their A performance. Meanwhile, we saw one of the greatest performances I've ever seen on a basketball court from LeBron James, a near-perfect game. We don't have to go over too much of what happened in Game 1, but what are you expecting from Game 2? The Cavs showed a lot in Game 1 that they can stay with these Warriors, but the Warriors still have room for improvement. How do you think that shakes out?
I mean, it's all gonna hinge on what happens with Klay. I mean, we saw him today. He was limping. He was, that optimism after Game 1 was not there.
That was adrenaline-filled optimism.
Yeah. So I'm curious to see how that happens. They were, I think, they were 3-6 in games that he was out this year, including a 3-5 stretch when he hurt his finger. They kind of need Klay Thompson. So
for sure.
I think that's a very big storyline going into Game 2.
We'll see. I mean, he was walking around with a pretty bad limp. He said that he expects to play on Sunday. That's great. Depends on how much he can play. I mean, now we're talking about how much is he limited. Is he 50%? Is he 80%? All that artificial stuff that we usually talk about with stuff like this. Obviously, the Warriors still have more talent than the Cavs, even with LeBron James on the other side, without Klay Thompson, which is crazy to think of. The thing that I really honed in on today and I thought was interesting was the Warriors not even pretending as if Kevin Durant didn't have had it. They're not even pretending. They said flat out, Kevin Durant had a bad game by his standards in Game 1. That wasn't something they were saying immediately after Game 1. And it's kind of the first time they've been critical of KD this entire postseason. If you remember Games 4 and 5, I think after Game 5, Game 4 of the Western Conference Finals, Steve Kerr is like, no, it's a great option. Mm-hmm. Even though the offense was super disjointed and they couldn't figure anything out, and he was like adamant that Kevin Durant was going to keep getting the ball, he was going to keep posting up, he was going to keep isolating. And I thought that was kind of strange at the time. It pushed through for the rest of that series. Obviously, KD came through in the second half of Game 7, but not good in the first game. Missed a lot of shots that, frankly, he had been making a lot earlier in the postseason. Those have kind of tuckered out. Not the best shot selection, honestly. And his defense was pretty lax when you look back on the tape. I don't know, though, how to read into KD, and I'm curious as to your thoughts. Like, you would think that a guy would bounce back from a game like that. He's Kevin Durant. He's one of the greatest players of all time. He'll have a good game, but he can kind of get in these ruts.
Yes. And I think that, Kevin also talked about, remember the TNT video? I don't know if it's still up, but the TNT video of him talking about in the locker when they were in the huddle. And he was talking about Jordan did this and he was doing
Steve
that story.
Kerr,
Durant said he loved that speech and he loved everything about that.
It seemed like he loved it in the moment.
And it just it's been weird. It's been weird ever since that. Like, he was very aggressive, and then when he did that, he's thinking too much. And when Kevin thinks too much, he tends to kind of not play well. I think that when he is locked in, they can be really good. And I'm curious to see if we can find that Kevin Durant in Game 2, especially since even if Klay plays, it's going to
you need to take on more of that load.
So I'm curious to see that because, while Steph is the most important player on this team, in my opinion, I think Kevin's the second best player in this league. And so he needs to show that, especially since, we don't know if Klay's going to play. But if he does play, he's going to be limited.
Definitely the load is heavier on Kevin's shoulders, and that's not something he's always responded to well, if we're being totally honest. Though Sean Livingston did say he perhaps had a breakthrough in Game 7. I didn't really see it carry over into Game 1, if I'm being frank. Maybe it was just an off game. Maybe it will carry over, and we'll see that in Game 2. Another curious thing from today's press conference, brouhaha, zoo.
Kerfuffle.
Let's go with kerfuffle. The Warriors let LeBron James score 51 points in Game 1. And the Cavs are kind of not even pretending as if they don't need him to do that again. Yeah. They're straight up being like, oh, hope that LeBron can keep this up. And because he's perhaps not a human, maybe he can. But what did you catch from the Warriors when it came to how they're going to, stop LeBron from scoring 51 points again? Maybe hold him to 40?
I think it's not so much what they say. It's just I think what they have to put out there. Andre is still not going. We don't know if Andre is going to play. I posed a question to Steve. I think it's a fair question. Is do you think he's going to be back in this series just by what we've seen over the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, he gave you a hell of a cop-out on that, too. It's day to day. It's like, how many days are we going to be day to day?
Exactly. So I think that, it's more so with the personnel the Warriors put out there. I mean, I can't really expect a Jordan Bell or a Kevon Looney or, in stretches. I probably Draymond Green.
Sorry? You can't put Nick Young on LeBron James for 15 possessions in a game.
Yeah, I saw him posting up Nick Young and I was scared. But I think the personnel that you put out there is kind of what it is with LeBron. I mean, he's going to get his in the series, and
for sure.
I think that's just something they're going to have to deal with and kind of win games despite that.
They were cool with it. Like, honestly, I was talking to a Warriors coach. He was like, we're cool with LeBron scoring 50 because we don't think the other guys can score 60. And I won't use his name because that's a pretty incendiary comment. But, like, that pretty much played out exactly as that was the worst case. They were bumping right up against that worst case scenario. The Warriors firmly feel like they can score more than 110, 115 points against this Cavs defense.
Which is fair.
Frankly, the only thing limiting them from scoring 120 in regulation is the Warriors.
Yeah.
But I did think it was interesting, Steve Kerr saying we didn't get enough of a body into him. We didn't make LeBron work as hard as maybe we should. It'll be interesting to see how fouls come into play in Game 2 if they're going to try to be more physical with LeBron because, there's nobody that can match up physically with LeBron.
I think more so they gotta take care of the rebounding in the offensive and tackling the offensive boards. I mean, even in that that J.R. Smith play doesn't happen if he doesn't get an offensive rebound over to KD.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen when you're rebounding and you're getting what you need to do. I think that they need to hone in on that as well. They have good rebounders. They have Draymond Green. They have KD who can rebound in stretches. They do have players that can do that. I think that that's something that they're going to have to work on going into game.
No question. But Tyronn Lue said that they're going to keep crashing the boards. The Cavs are going to keep crashing the boards.
Yeah.
So their transition defense is not going to get any better in Game 2, and that's the worst transition defense I've seen.
What was your if you followed Dieter Kurtenbach on Twitter? What was your
CDT?
Yeah.
CDT.
Yeah. What was that? What is that?
Cavs transition defense.
That's all he's
going to show up once, twice, 3 times, 100 times. The Warriors had 22 fast break points. I'd be shocked if it wasn't 30 in Game 2. And it's I don't know how you beat the Warriors if they are constantly in transition. This Cavs transition defense is horrific, and it just plays right into the Warriors' strengths. That said, LeBron James.
Yeah.
And you don't bet against him. We saw that in Game 1.
Yeah.
They took the blunder of all blunders for the Warriors to get to overtime, where they, of course, blew it out. I'm fascinated to see how LeBron responds. He's going to come right, but could he possibly match that? I'm fascinated to see how the rest of the Cavs respond. Kevin Love was 1 of 7 from 3. I don't know if that's too out of the norm.
Kyle Korver,
1 of 3. They were 8 of 32, and they missed a lot of open three-point looks, kind of going back to that
Houston
Rocket series too.
Yeah.
Where definitely. It's the Warriors have been kind of getting away with some stuff. Now, I don't know if that's going to win the Cavs 4 games in this series, because clearly when you saw both of these teams, when you saw the Warriors at their best in Game 1 for those 5-10-minute stretches, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
It looked like a first-round series. But the Cavs, and Steve Kerr has been pounding this, and I'm kind of believing him now, just a little bit. He's always said that this is going to be a much tighter series than maybe we're giving it credit for. I'd like to remind Steve Kerr that the odds are minus 1,700 for the Warriors to win this series. That means you put down $170, you can make 10 whole bucks. So clearly the odds are in the Warriors' favor here. We saw in Game 1, they got lucky. Now they have to exert themselves onto this series. They got to land the kill shot, because if the Cavs go back, these teams go back to Cleveland, it's 2-0. They just gave away a game, and then they got blown out by 30, as we know the Warriors can do. I don't know how Game 3 I don't know how Game 3 plays out, but that's a pretty good way to demoralize a team heading back home. And I think that's what the Warriors need to do. They can't just win. They gotta win big. They got to be full Warriors on these guys.
And we are going to be here. We'll see you here for Game 2 tomorrow. We'll see you in Cleveland. This is Dieter Kurtenbach. I'm Logan Murdock. Peace.